Stephanie, welcome to CFO at Home. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Today, your focus as an attorney is helping families navigate issues after loss, specifically life insurance issues after a death and claims are delayed, denied, suddenly disputed. That's where you get involved. But I understand that at the beginning of your law career, that was not your focus, and that there was a specific situation in your personal life that inspired you to go in this direction. Would you mind sharing a bit about that with us?
Absolutely. This gives my grandmother such great joy to know that she had a profound impact on my career, my future. I went to law school. I did very well, graduated, got a really fancy hoity-toity ivory white tower job, and remember sitting there doing some work and receiving a call from my grandmother. And I can still see it and feel it. I'm sitting at my desk. I've got a wall of windows behind me. I've got every award I've ever won, every gold star on the wall in front of me, lest I forget that I had them. And my grandmother calls me in the middle of the workday and, "How you doing? I'm at work. Is everything okay?" She says, "Stephanie, Papa," which is grandfather in Southern, but she said, "Papa has just been diagnosed with Parkinson's, and I need to know, what are we going to do?" And I'm this young lawyer, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, "Well, Mama, call my mom because she's the nurse. You know this. She can tell you where you need to go, who you need to see, which facilities, if we have to go into a facility, has the best bed, the best care," and is to this day one of the sharpest, strongest women I've ever met. And she was very snippy and she stopped me in my shoes and she was like, "I didn't ask you where we go. I asked you, what are we going to do? What about the things we own? What about the things we've saved? What about the things that we've planned for our children, for our family? What are we going to do?" And in that moment, for that person, I didn't have a clue. I didn't. I didn't matter that I had all these gold stars and all these awards. I couldn't answer my grandmother's question. And that was pivotal to me in my life. And ultimately, I ended up moving home and helping to take care of my grandparents. But at least I was smart enough to know I couldn't be their lawyer because I didn't know what to do. So I drove the lawyer that they did hire bananas, literally bananas. And he called me one day and said, "Look, if you were going to call me again with another question or another email, I've got 3 files on a desk. I need you to show up and work them." He gave me a job. And I showed up and I worked those files and I learned. And that lawyer is very capable, very competent. It was very interesting because I walked into a practice first as a family member, not as a lawyer. And that changed everything for me because I remember sitting next to my mom, who again she was just sharp and strong, and she was never afraid of anything. And I watched her shrink when she walked into those meetings because she had to talk about their money, their health, their children, their worries, their long-term planning. And I've never seen her curl forward. I've never seen her shrink. And I just remember sitting there as her granddaughter looking at this very capable attorney going, "Do you see it? Do you see how scared she is? We have to slow this down. She's brilliant and maybe she's not understanding." And so it changed how I functioned as a lawyer. And I went straight into estate planning and working with clients like my grandmother, but I changed my approach because of that. And so it was a hard day, but a great gift.
So I assume that that was a number of years ago.
Yes, yes.
Are your grandparents, are either one of them still with us?
My mom is still alive. My mom passed from Parkinson's quite some time ago, but my mom's still here. She's still sharp. She'll keep me on my toes still.
Yeah, I bet.
Oh yeah.
So the pre-preparation when your grandmother rang the bell and said, "Hey, we have to get this thing together." How beneficial was that at the end of the day by the time your grandfather actually passed away? What was the time between those two incidents?
The time between them doing their planning and his passing was
Yes.
years, thankfully.
Okay.
But I'll tell you what was really fascinating for me as a young lawyer, and now even as a more seasoned lawyer, the chasm between planning for legal matters and planning for financial matters. And people don't understand that they're together. They have to work together. And one of the reasons why I ultimately went out on my own to practice is because it's one thing to have a very good, capable attorney tell you, we need to do one, two, three, four. I need you to go talk to your advisor and tell them we need to do A, B, C. Your advisor is having an ulcer because you're trying to ask them to do something that your lawyer told you needed to do, but you're probably not saying it the exact same way your lawyer said. And your financial advisor is saying, why is your lawyer telling you how to handle these particular assets? That's not their lane. This is my lane. And those two worlds collide, and it often leads to frustration, to inappropriate and ineffective planning. And at that moment, when I worked with my grandmother or worked beside her and then worked with future clients, I made a rule that I would never, ever take a client to handle an estate matter if they didn't have a financial advisor. They had to come in with their advisor, and then they had to let me talk to their advisor. I was never going to give them financial planning advice because that is not my lane, but I sure do know how those assets affect your estate when you're living, when you're sick, when you pass. Your lawyer and your advisor should be hanging out, having lunch, and talking to each other about how they work. And what I've found in working with my clients is that I would tell them, I need your advisor's name, and I'm going to call them and we're going to talk. And then the minute I spoke to them, I would either send an email or have a telephone call to say, I wanted to let you know I spoke to Justin, and Justin is amazing. Or I spoke to Josh, and Josh is amazing. I want you to know we're talking to each other, and he understands or she understands why we're doing this particular estate plan. And if we need any changes, you're going to know that I'm just not telling you to do something, and they're not just telling you to do something, that we have communicated and we're working as a team. It is just beautiful to watch your clients. They just relax. It's probably one of my favorite parts of my practice was just listening to people, and they would be like, I know y'all are talking. That's all I need to know. If y'all are talking, I trust my people. How great is that, right? How great is a gift of that? And then if you're working as a team, to get back to your question, because I went the long way there, to work with your team and how long it takes to get it done, it depends on your lawyer sometimes, because some lawyers they stack their work and take longer. But the truth is, if a lawyer reaches out to an advisor and says, this is my recommendation based on what I know, I have permission to talk to you, you have permission to talk to me. Are there assets or things that I don't know about? Because I don't want to come to you with a legal plan that affects financial assets either when they're living or when they pass, and do something wrong because I didn't know all of the assets. And once you have that conversation, your plans are able to develop, to be created, and then work almost seamlessly. It's really a fun practice.
And here's an off the board question that just occurred to me. Based on the importance of that relationship, would you recommend? I'll use myself as an example. I have no problem. I have an estate planning attorney that I had a very pleasant relationship with. I have a financial advisor that I have a good relationship with. Those two people have never met. Is that something that I should be doing now and at least getting them somewhat familiar with one another?
In my practice, I found it to be very important, but I don't know what type of estate plan you have. I don't know what type of assets you have. I've had plenty of clients who in that estate practice would come to me and say, look, I have a house, I have a car, I have one investment account, and that investment account is really an IRA. It's got a beneficiary designation and maybe $10,000 in savings. At that point, I'm going to say, I want to know who your advisor is. I'm going to make a phone call, but we don't need to meet because that financial asset that you've got out there, it's got a beneficiary designation. You've talked to your advisor. I'm never going to touch it. I'm never going to do anything with it. We can develop an estate plan that accounts for your house, your car, and your $10,000 in savings. Just depends on what we're looking at.
Yeah. The most frequent answer I get to those kind of questions is it depends. So
Well,
that's
that's a lawyer answer. Yes.
financial people as well, financial advisors. And I think it's an intellectually honest answer. So I do want to dive into life insurance, but
Absolutely.
I have one other question because I am bringing all kinds of personal baggage into this. I don't know if this is
I'm here
therapy
for
or
it. Bring it.
what. I know that you referenced earlier the situation with your grandmother and your grandfather, and that situation was discovered, thankfully, in enough time to do planning.
That's correct.
There are situations where people aren't that lucky. They haven't done a lick of planning, and I'm not pointing fingers. You're looking at one, particularly with, and I'll say it, particularly with our father, because we were all in
Mhm.
such a deep state of denial of what was happening. We we really didn't do
Mhm.
any planning. We were pathetic. For people who are in that situation, what's the first thing that a family member should do when a person dies and they don't have any plan?
So I'm gonna back it up just a little bit, and I want to make a quick point. You will notice that my mama called me not because my papa was dying. She called me because he was living. He was living in a way that they did not anticipate. And I think that's really fundamental when you're just looking at planning, whether it's financial planning or estate planning, just in general. People come to me, or they used to come to me for planning to die. And that's important because that's going to happen, and we need to have something in place to account for when we pass. But I cannot emphasize the importance of people are living longer. They're living in conditions that are unexpected. When your dad was alive and you were in denial, you were denying how he was living, not the fact that he was dying. So I really feel like it's important that people understand that you have to plan not just when you're living, but plan because you are living. And that planning includes anticipating what to do when you die. And then when someone does die and you don't know what to do, that's such a hard situation because there are no perfect answers, right? I received today 4 phone calls. Somebody passed away. We think they have a life insurance policy. What do we do? Okay. Gosh, I wish we had had this conversation when someone was still alive, because I'm going to give you some directions on how to go find something if it's possible to find something. You might get answers pretty quickly, or it might take a month, 2 months. And if you were planning on that money coming from that policy or that other asset, and you don't know where it is or where to look, I hope to goodness we have something to bridge that gap, because that search takes time. And it doesn't matter how good you are at your job or how good I am at my job. And I know we're both really good at it. Even we don't have a crystal ball to conjure up where these things are. It takes conversations, it takes investigation, it takes time. And time is the one commodity that moves much, much slower after somebody passes.
Yep. I can definitely identify with that. So
Mhm.
let's get into life insurance specifically. And this whole episode may just be me talking about
I love it.
my personal life. But I've had two people very close to me, immediate family members, to pass away with life insurance. When my father passed away, my father was older. He had me when he was older. So it's like a World War II veteran, that kind of deal. And we found one very minor policy that he had. I can't even remember the amount of money. It was not going to change the game, but
Mhm.
as much as anything, in his honor, we wanted to get the money. And it was some insurance company, 1940s. I mean, this insurance company was long out of existence. And even though we wanted to get the money, it just didn't seem like an efficient use of time to do all the legwork needed to track down this relatively small amount of money. So that's
Right.
one thing. My sister's situation was a different situation. She really could have used life insurance. I don't know exactly when she enacted the policy, but when her kids were following up on it, the story I got is that it was denied because
Mhm.
of the time frame that she took it out. She was already ill when she
Mhm.
took the policy out. So I
Mhm.
didn't get into the details,
Mhm.
but that seems to be the type of thing that you deal with. So many
Yes.
people are depending on these life insurance policies, and unfortunately, people go from oh, I have a life insurance policy, or mom had a life insurance policy, or dad had a life insurance policy, to the dreaded GoFundMe. Just point
Hmm.
blank, I have
Yes,
seen it happen, unfortunately.
me too.
So, this is what you specialize in. So, can you just break down or give us some of the top reasons that people find themselves in that situation?
Absolutely. There's a number of reasons why someone could find themselves in that situation. And I want to note before we break those down, you said something that I found really profound when you talked about your dad, and you said it's this smaller policy, but for his honor, we wanted to collect on that. And for me, whether it's a small policy or an enormous policy, when they are denied or you're unable to locate them or unable to pursue that process, so many people feel like their feelings are not being validated, that their loved one has been diminished because you had this thing, your family paid for it, and it's become, I always say it's almost like another member of the family because people talk about it, or you know it's there, or you hear about it, and you're planning for it to be there. They procured this thing so that they could provide for their family, whether it was to cover expenses or to just be a gift to help with your future down the road. It became a part of their financial and family existence because it was there for a reason, as a gift for a purpose. And then when they're denied or they're delayed or you just are unable to figure out what to do, I cannot tell you how many people have cried saying, "This was my dad. This was my mom." And now you're acting like they don't matter. They mattered when they paid their bill, but now that they're gone, they don't matter anymore. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about what we do, because it's infuriating to hear that. And it's just, it's not supposed to be that way. When you have this policy and things can go wrong. So in your sister's case, what they were talking about was the 2-year contestability period. When someone obtains a life insurance policy, the life insurance companies have what we call a 2-year contestability period, that if you die within the first 2 years of having that policy, they have the right to go back and check all of your medical records back to when you were born to see if there was some sort of medical occurrence that you didn't disclose that maybe would have made them change their mind, or if there was, like you talked about, the 28 doctors you have seen, but you forgot to that even existed and you just forgot to tell them about it. They're going to go back and say, "Had you disclosed that, we wouldn't have issued this policy to you." Now, let me tell you how absurd this can be. I have two cases, two of them, in my office right now. 2-year contestability periods. Policies are being challenged by the life insurance company. You want to know what my two people died from?
What's that?
Gunshot wounds. They were
Oh,
murdered. There
gee.
is no illness for murder, but they're going to
Right.
go back and check those medical records to see, hey, would we have issued that policy? We're so sorry about that bullet. And I know that's really not a health condition until you're dead, but we're going to go back and see if you had the flu in 1990 and that flu caused you to have a long term cough, that maybe we wouldn't have issued this policy. It's that absurd.
Wow, it is crazy that
Hmm.
they will issue the policy. They will
That's
have
right.
you pay for the policy, but they don't do that due diligence up front, which they could.
Some of them do. So I don't want to knock every company out there. Some of them do. And that's why you have ratings tables for insurance policies. So you can come in, and the policy that I have on me, when I got it, I was significantly younger and I have a great rating on that. Nice policy, very low payment. If I tried to get the same policy now, they would probably table me and I'd have a higher payment just because I'm older. And while I'm healthy, I'm not like I was years ago. Some companies really do a good job on that. Other companies just do a questionnaire and they're going to ride out that 2-year, see if you pass in that 2-year period. And I don't want to knock insurance companies completely. My husband is my law partner. He'll do that in a heartbeat. But I do try to be fair and acknowledge that, look, there are some people who flat out lie on those policies and hoping that they'll survive those 2 years. And I respect that. I respect that the companies need to look into that. The hard part of it is when you have these ridiculous circumstances where, again, I have two cases where they were murdered. That has nothing to do with their health, but you're going to go back and see if you would have issued that policy. Or you have people who misunderstood the question, and misunderstanding and being false or fraudulent, there's no difference for the insurance company. If you answer the question wrong just because you misunderstood the question, that doesn't matter. They may still cancel that policy or not pay out that benefit. So there's no gap between that. If you misunderstood or you said it wrong, we don't care. We're not paying it out. Gosh, too bad, so sad. That's one thing to look for.
And what comes to mind for me as we're on the subject is the insurance company that will advertise on television and it's like, no
Uh,
medical exam needed, no, nothing, that kind of thing.
uh,
And the thing is, yes, they are assuming a lot of risk in that
mhm.
situation. And if you're already ill, well, like my sister was, and you know going in, that's the catch, then you may just take the gamble because it's better
Yeah.
than nothing. But go in and
Mhm.
just to adjust expectations because when her kids spent a lot of time
I,
pursuing that, they were
mhm.
crestfallen
Yep,
when they were denied.
that's right. That's right. And some of that is a lot of people don't know about that 2-year period. So in your sister's case, she may think, hey, no medical, I filled it out, I submitted it, my babies are going to be okay. And so they are crestfallen about that because had she known about that 2-year contestability period, she might have looked at them and said, all right, fingers crossed, let's try. But baby, they might, don't pin your hopes and dreams on this.
Right.
Let's got to do something else. Other things that can cause policies to be denied or delayed, gosh, just life, like divorce. People get divorced, they don't look at their policies, they don't look at the terms of their divorce judgment, they don't update their beneficiaries. You can have beneficiaries who are not even a beneficiary. You can have somebody call in and say, I have a dispute. I don't think that was right the way that they named a beneficiary there. I think that there was a mistake. And so they can actually hold up payment of a policy for a very long time, just saying, I'm going to contest. I don't know if that person had competency to name their beneficiary, or the life insurance company can look at it and say, we're very concerned. There was a number of changes in a short amount of time. We're going to investigate this. We're going to delay payment because we're concerned. If they think that someone has contributed to someone's death, so if there's a possible homicide, then they're going to put their hands up and say, we're not going to pay it because you're not allowed to profit from causing someone's death. And while that makes sense if you actually did murder someone, the truth is when those matters are investigated, cops will have a persons of interest list. And if you are on that persons of interest list, the insurance company won't pay. And they will never, ever make that persons of interest list smaller or give out that information if someone's removed from that because the investigation may still be ongoing. My husband just
Amazing.
had a case where a woman was who absolutely could not have caused the harm to her husband. Her husband was murdered. She was a person of interest for 17 years, and she really wasn't a person of interest. The cops just never disclosed that they removed her as a person of interest. 17 years before she was able to collect on that. And the only reason she was able to collect on that policy is because when she spoke to my husband, he was like, this is ridiculous. Under no circumstances should you be continuing to wait. And so he fought for her and he went and got it. And it's just, you have to pay attention. The circumstances are just ridiculous. People have confusion with what the contract will actually provide. So you can have regular life insurance or you can have accidental death insurance. We see these all the time. Uh, People will call us up and say, hey, the certificate of death says somebody died in an accident, but the accidental death policy is not paying out. They're saying, nope, we don't think it's an accident. And there's this gap between what you think is an accident and how the insurance company defined an accident. We fight those all the time to protect people's rights. Or how about employment policies where you get this part of your workers' benefits package, and then that's part of your working package. It's really not a lifelong permanent benefit, but unless you convert it or you take the steps to maintain it as a lifelong benefit. I have had so many cases where people didn't understand how their rights changed or if they needed to convert their rights or fill out paperwork to maintain their rights. It's devastating when somebody passes and they file a claim for that work-related benefit only to be told, no, we're not paying it because they didn't work the number of days, or they never filed the paperwork to transfer it to be their own policy when they retired. Those are hard conversations to have.
Insurance companies being what insurance companies are, and I don't want to vilify them either.
No,
It's a
me either.
business. It's based on all kinds of actuarial assumptions and things,
Mhm.
and they're profit driven. No two ways
Right.
about it. But yeah, there's nothing more distasteful than I think in all the insurance scenarios I can think of than what we're talking about now. If a family finds themselves with a delay or a deny in their claim, are there basic steps that they should pursue, or is that another it depends situation?
That's such a lawyer thing.
You're a lawyer. Huh?
I want to note on something that you just said. We don't want to vilify the insurance company, but I do want to be very clear about something. They are profit driven, and I respect that completely. I'm profit driven. I run a business. I want to do good for my clients and do well for myself. But I have to note that they are taking advantage of someone's grief, someone's ignorance of the policy and process, someone's lack of access to certain information. And I see it play out all of the time where somebody comes in and says, I didn't have it in me. They kept sending me something I had to do, or they would call me, and I was so sad. I didn't know what to do, and I'm struggling, and we've got to pay for a funeral. They are planning and banking on your grief to make a mistake in this process. And let me be clear, it is a process with rules, and they don't tell you the rules, by the way. And when you file your claim and if it's denied, there are rules on how you appeal that. There are deadlines on how you appeal that. They don't give those to you because they're planning on you to quit. I don't want to vilify an entire company, but I absolutely will acknowledge the reality of what they're doing. And that is despicable, in my opinion. If a
And
claim is denied or delayed, you can file your claim, but if you are denied, talk to a lawyer who does this. Talk to a lawyer because at that point, the rules, you don't know the rules and you don't have the time to learn them because there are state rules, there are federal rules, there are contract rules. If you got it from your employer, there might be employer based rules. And the deadlines are different, whether it's a personal policy, whether it's a work based policy, whether it's an accidental death policy, whether it's a different type of company. The rules stack up and you don't have the time to learn all of them. And if you try to do it yourself, they absolutely know that they're going to win. And I actually had a call with a lovely head of an insurance company, their legal department. And let me tell you, they love AI. They love it because they know AI doesn't know the rules. They don't know all of the independent rules for the contract, for the policies, for whether it's federal rules, state rules, and how they interact. They love AI because people are using AI to write an appeal or try to make a claim on their case, and it's making it so easy for them to deny them over and over.
yeah, there are two lines of business that I never want to have a conversation with again. The first conversation when I'm in deep grief. One is life insurance, and the other is the funeral home or whatever you want to call it. Because again, they're in the grief business too. I won't go there, but when you were talking about people taking advantage of your
Oh, yeah,
grief,
they can.
those cats on another level. But
They
that's
can
a
be.
story for another day. Last question. So we've talked about what to do if you find yourself being denied. Is there anything that we can do proactively? Because again, people have these policies, but there's just so much legalese and so much paperwork involved that you really don't understand all the ifs, ands, and buts. Is it wise to have that information reviewed by a lawyer at that time?
That's a great question. And I would be the first to tell you, I don't know if any lawyer really would review it at that time, simply because at that point, a lawyer looks at that as a financial asset. And I think what's really important is to note, and we briefly talked about this earlier, is that life insurance is one of those big financial assets that everybody or a lot of people procure during their lifetime, but they don't look at it. But you'll go meet with your financial advisor once a year to go look at everything that you're investing in, but you don't go look at your life insurance. And I think it's so important to look at it like, do I still have it? Do I still need it? Is it still serving the right purpose? Do I have the right beneficiaries named? Or do I need to change them? Am I still married to the same person? Did I age out? Does the amount of coverage decrease when I hit a certain age? Are there any benefits or riders attached to this policy? All of these things are topics that you can discuss with your financial advisor.
Okay. So there's your legal team, there's your financial team. When it comes to, hey, I have this life insurance policy, I need to understand how it works at the proper time. That's really more of a question for your financial advisor than your legal.
Absolutely. And if you have a good financial advisor, which I hope you do, your financial advisor is looking at, hey, what's your debt? And okay, you have your mortgage, you have your house, we have all of these things. I know what you're saving. Do you have this life insurance policy? And look, some advisors hate life insurance, some advisors love it. I respect both positions. But if you have it, you definitely need to be talking about it with your financial advisor. At least let them know that you have it because they may be looking at it going, okay, we can put this in your book of assets as this is earmarked to pay for kids' tuition if you pass away, or this is earmarked to pay off your mortgage if you pass away. And even more importantly, more than anything, if you have a life insurance policy, tell someone, just tell someone. Because again, I had 4 calls today. Somebody passed away. They talked about having a life insurance policy, but we don't know. We don't have any idea what to do. Okay. Did they tell you with whom? Did they tell you if it was in the filing cabinet? Did they have a lawyer? Can you check their bank statements to see if these monthly premiums are being taken out? That's a hard conversation to have to give someone like a treasure map to say, okay, here's the places you can try to go look. If you have a policy, or if you have it, not just a life insurance policy, if you have a retirement plan, if you have investments, if you have savings, if you have a will or a trust, please tell someone. Just tell them, I have it. And if you want to maintain your privacy, and I so respect that, you can say, I have these things. I want you to know I have an advisor or a lawyer and I have a trusted team. And that's all you need to know right now is I've done what I need to do. It's not for you to ask how much I have or who gets what. You just need to know it's out there and you can go to this person or you can go to this drawer or to this document at the right time. And if I catch you messing with it before the right time, just know all that stuff can be changed and it will be. So I think that's so important.
So there's that financial advisor, there's that general legal estate team, and then there are specialists like you. Your online headquarters is lifeclaim.com. Tell us a little bit about the products and services that you offer through the site.
So, LifeClaim exists solely to help families when life insurance benefits are denied or delayed or disputed when someone passes away. So, if you go to our website, there will actually be 2 questions. Are you having something that's disputed or are you having something that's denied or delayed? And you provide that information, and all of those emails actually come to me and to my husband directly. And we look at every single one of them every day, and we call everybody back every single day to say, okay, we understand what you're really looking for is you're actually trying to find a life insurance policy. I can't find it for you, but I can tell you where to go look, right? Or this is actually a case and let's talk about it. Let's get a little bit more information on what's going on here to see if we can help you. It's a very simple, easy website to navigate. Or if you like to call, I like to call. You can call us directly. Our number is 888-615-3270. Or you can email me directly. It's stephanie.prestridge@lifeclaim.com. It's easy to get there.
And we'll include all that in the show notes. And that, for lack of a better way of putting it, that concierge level service that you give, the fact that all things being equal, you encourage people to call you
Oh, please, yes.
in a world where nobody really wants to be called for anything. That is awesome, particularly when a person is going through that situation. So, Stephanie, I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for your passion. Again, I've talked to a fair amount of estate planning attorneys, and we've talked about different aspects of the process, but this is a overlooked and very important part of the process because, again, it is so tied to the hopes and dreams
Yeah.
and good intentions of our loved ones not to leave us in a financial bind. So I salute you. I salute your husband for the work you're doing. Thanks for being on CFO at Home today.
Thank you so much. It's been a joy.